Right, morning, welcome everybody, welcome on board. Today, something about people today, is it, Leo? I don't think we dealt with people. It's just all AI and robotics and computers these days. No human interaction whatsoever. So how do we go about establishing relationships and making friends when you've got no contact? So this is going to be an interesting one. Over to you.
Yeah, I think if I was picking up from yesterday in terms of how are you building relationships? We were talking about creating opportunities, and that one of the ways we create opportunities, whether that's to develop your friendship circle or your business, or in a new direction that you want to go in your life, is building these new relationships. What does it take? That's what we were looking at yesterday. And then Mpumelelo and a couple of other people were saying, but if you're thinking specifically in a business context, and here we are limited in some ways, and also we have opportunities in other ways that we hadn't even realized. How do we expand our business? How do we build our business? Through relationships. And where is that fine line between I'm building a relationship so that we can like each other and enjoy each other's company, and now we're wanting to transfer that into a business conversation? And are we now breaking down some level of trust to say, now it's business versus I'm building a relationship? And I'm hoping I'm reading the conversation correctly. And as I was picking that up, my bottom line thought was, and I see this with business people, entrepreneurs over and over and over again, whether you're starting your own business or you were sitting in corporate in a job and then stepped out to run your own business, is this aversion to selling. And that we call it everything else. And I've worked with sales teams for years, and they don't call themselves salespeople. They call themselves account managers or account executives or something, but don't say sales. Even though when I say to them, so does anybody here not sell? Everybody sells. Doesn't matter what you're selling, whether it's yourself or your job or yourself to your spouse or whatever the case may be, or where you want to go on holiday, you're selling all the time. And I think for me, that's really the bottom line is, how can we get out of our minds that it's okay to speak to somebody about business, and that business is an honourable way to do your life. Everybody's in business in some way or another. And I actually got the most amazing series of WhatsApp messages from my domestic worker's daughter. She wrote matric last year. And of course, now she's in this in-between place where she's half at college because of COVID, but the rest of the time she's got some time free. So she just sends me, one message. Hi, Lee, how are you? I'm fine, surprise, how are you? And then she waits. And then I get to ask the question, so how's college going? Fine, but I've got some spare time. What are you doing in your spare time? I'm running a small business. What are you selling? Can you see what's happening here? I'm selling socks. Do you want to see them? Love to see your socks. Picture of beautiful, warm, she said, they're especially for winter. Lovely warm socks. How much are they? Only 70 Rand. Guess how many pairs of socks I bought? This is normal life. And I made her happy. She made me happy. it was a perfect transaction. And I think we need to realize that every connection is an opportunity to offer something that is going to create value and appreciation in each other's lives. And if money passes hands, all the better, because then you've actually proven your value to the other person, because they're willing to take money out of their pockets and give it to you. So that is my little, passionate plea to please see selling as something that is honorable and needs to happen wisely and professionally. But I would love to hear from you. So please let me know, well, how do you build business relationships that make sense? That is the question, and I invite you to respond.
Great, thanks, Lee. I hope you've all got your warm socks on this morning. And yeah, so let's get across to Trevor first for a change. So Trevor.
So Lee, how are you doing?
I'm well.
I just started a business. So listen, I want to take off from where I left off. I wanted to get on and share with Mpumelelo yesterday. I made the comment that I don't go out to build relationships at all. I've never done that. In fact, I think it's slimy when people turn around and say, man, I want to be your friend first, and then later on I'll sell to you. I don't think that's what life is all about. And I'll go back a little bit how I've approached sales. But the comment that I want to leave with Mpumelelo is this. If you're really looking to establish a relationship with someone and it's really genuine, ask that individual for help. Simple as that. People in business love to help other people who are genuine in their asking for help. Now, there's a difference in the asking for help. So the individual that is requiring charity or is requiring support, who needs a couple of bob to actually get a meal, is very different to the relationship building question I believe you are asking. Someone like yourself from Mpumelelo who is into leadership, who's really wanting to break through at major corporate levels, pick up the phone, turn around and say, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, I'm in town, man, have you got 20, 30 minutes for me? I'm actually looking to get help on this. Could you do something for me, or could you put me in front of someone? When you ask the question in that way, it opens up the room to start connecting where you want to connect. Now, I also just want to quickly go back. I was thinking back, my first ever corporate environment was in pharmaceutical sales. I knew nothing about cardiovascular drugs. I knew nothing about doctors. I'd come off the beach man, it was a rugby player who turned around and said, just come here, here's a bag, here's a car, go off and sell these drugs. So Yara was talking to individuals who'd been studying for 12, 14 years. They were specialists. And I would go and knock on the door and say, hi, my name is Trevor. I'm from Squibb Laboratories. And I just want to share with you this info. And I tell you what, I've just joined this company. I haven't got a clue. You're the specialist here. Won't you tell me what these things do? And then when they told me what they did, I went next door and told them what the guy next door to me told me about the drugs that I had. And within must have been about 6 months, I had every doctor in the whole of Natal and the Eastern Cape playing golf. And I'd never played golf before, just because we enjoyed each other. And it was on the basis that I went straight in, said who I was, I delivered on whatever I said I was going to do. And I think that's what people respect. People respect people who make things happen. So if you're an individual who makes things happen, you will naturally attract people to you. So I think if you go out to force people and forced relationships, in fact, if you come and do that with me, I actually run away from those type of relationships. I like to work with people who make things happen, and I seek out people who make things happen. I better keep quiet, otherwise I'll talk the whole half an hour.
No, that's great. Thanks, Trevor. Yeah, right. So let's get across to Mpolelo, seeing that you were the target of most of that.
Who knew Trevor was a drug dealer at some stage? But anyway, life goes on. I liked your story as well, Lee. I guess, look, when I asked the question yesterday, I was hearing the answers, but I was still not happy about understanding how the building of relationship works, if it is that at some stage we're hoping the relationship becomes a business. So that's why I raised that question, because for me, it felt like, when you build a relationship, when it comes to fruition, it can be at different times. It can be a year later, it can be 2 years later. And in my head, I was asking myself, is that a sustainable way of doing sales, a sustainable way of doing business? Because the costs and everything run every single month. So that's why I raised this question, so that I can hear that beyond building relationships, are there any other ways? Or is there a strategy in building a relationship itself that one can build very healthy sales? Let me also say this. Generally, as a person, I hate being sold to. I really, really hate being sold to. How I usually do things is I will look for information if I have a need. And after that, I will go out and look. Even when I get into a shop and a salesperson says, can I help you? I say, wait, let me have a look. Once I decide or I have a question, then I'll call you. So then, because I hate being sold to, I tended to use more building relationships as a way of doing sales. But what I was finding is that I'm not building enough sales doing that approach. So that's why I asked the question yesterday. Is building relationships really the crux, and does it really, really make a business grow? My experience has been that, yes, I've had some sales. I did say yesterday that every sale I've made in life is because of relationships that I've built. So that's a strategy I've always used. But if I look at my bank account, that strategy is not saying to me it is sufficient enough to make the business run and grow. So that's why I wanted to know, if you build relationships as a strategy that I'm using, is the way of moving that into business consistently, and not hoping that at some stage somebody will say, oh, now you've figured out my needs. Now you know what I want. Come, let's do business. I know I'm still putting it out as a question. I'm not saying what I do, but like I said, usually all sales I've done, I've built through relationships, and yeah, the bank account doesn't reflect as greatly. So I don't know what other sales ways are out there.
All right, great. Thanks. Some interesting questions there, Mpolelo. Right, let's go across to the man who's built some 20,000 relationships over a long period of time. Jasper, what do you think of that one?
I'm still learning. Also, I think depending on how you ask the question, building relationship in itself is a topic, and I think we all can learn how to become a better version of ourselves. And I think no relationship lasts if there's not reciprocal value. And there's that saying, some people are there for a reason, some for a season, some for a lifetime. Everybody has value, even if it's just to tell you that this is not the kind of person I need to work with for the rest of my life, or they could be the gateway that could lead you to people. So I think and Lee touched on that in terms of self-image. If you see yourself as this poor me that have to make a living of selling, why can't I rather be that manager that sits in the corner and be very important? So our society has almost belittled the process of selling, whereas everything we see and do around us is as a result of the process of selling. So in my own life, it was a journey where I was that person who almost looked down on anyone who is busy with the sales process. I'd rather saw myself as the manager sitting behind the scenes and being this important one making decisions. And then life took its path with me, and I lost my jobs, and I had to get to grips with myself that I have a few choices. And one of that is what stands between me and the wonderful world out there was my view on selling. So I then had to re-look at my internal view of selling, and what helped me was a book by Tom Hopkins. It's an old book, but you should still be able to find it in a bookstore. And it's a simple book that just says how to master the art of selling. And in his very first chapter, he addressed the topic of how do you see yourself in terms of selling? And once you can crack that thing, that selling is probably the noblest profession. And I mean, there's other beautiful books out there. Apostle Paul was selling the gospel, and he learned how to do it in a way that with the Romans, he was this, and with another group, he was that. So selling, we all are salespeople if we are passionate about that thing that we do. And we've done several such exercises where you get people to tell us about their hobby. And the quietest person in the room, his face lit up, and they start selling you on their hobby, whether it's stamps collecting or raising dogs or whatever. So we are all salespeople. So the first one is to have your positioning correct, and it's about with a self-image. And actually that self-image has nothing to do whether you're a salesperson or not. It's just a lot of people feel I'm not a person of value, and therefore you position yourself and project yourself as poor me. All right, then I think the other thing that helped me is to understand that yes, I can be passionate, but what doesn't matter how passionate I am about what I'm doing, it's not for everybody, but it is for somebody. Now, how do I find that somebody? And then way back we had a saying that some will, some won't, so what next? And it's to become comfortable with the process. And I am here today and have a successful career behind me in network marketing because someone who couldn't care what I think or feel just asked me a simple question: how would you like to make some extra money? And that was at the point in my life where I was really looking at doing some extra money. So I don't think there's a right or a wrong way. I think if you, it starts with yourself. If you have a strong self-image, a strong self-identity, and then you're willing to become the eternal student, and then tweak and touch, and coming back to relationship, the relationship will be as a result of feeling good about yourself, and that will start moving you to the right people and attracting the right kind of people to me. I think I'll stop there and get the others a chance to talk.
Great, thanks, Jasper. Right, Edward, let's get across to you and hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, Lee, you and I need to talk because I used to sell socks, and I'm still an ambassador for a sock brand. And I think socks are interesting because you're never going to make a big bank balance selling socks by relationships. Unless, of course, those relationships are with retailers and wholesalers and manufacturers rather than the customer. So I think you've really got to decide what your business model is as to what type of relationships you need. And we used to sell via independent shops throughout the country. So those relationships weren't nice, warm, cuddly ones because we only saw them every 2 or 3 times a year. But it was about delivering on what you promised, delivering on time, providing good service. It wasn't a going playing golf relationship. It wasn't having a barbecue relationship. It was a relationship built on providing service. But I think it was also about being genuine. If we tried to force on them a product we didn't believe in, then that relationship would have been broken. And I think that's what happened in the past with a lot of salespeople. They sold stuff that people didn't want. And sales got a bad reputation. But if you're providing a solution to a customer's problems, you're selling socks that prevent them getting blisters in the long run. You sell them clothing that makes them feel good when they're running. That's what I used to do. Then you're providing a solution, not selling them something. You're providing a solution to their problem. So that's my thoughts. It's a very complicated subject depending on what you're selling, what type of relationship you've got. If you're an accountant, it's a different thing to if you're a sock salesperson. So that's my thoughts.
Great, thanks, Edward. Well put. Especially if you're putting them on, I suppose. It's yeah. So let's hear from Warren. Warren, your thoughts? You're a relationship man, I think.
Hi, morning everyone. Yes, I am a relationship guy. So my parents taught me from a very early age to treat people how you'd like to be treated. Okay, which is what I've always done in all my life. So for 20 years, I worked at Apple Computer in London. I loved it. I'm a geek. I love all that stuff. But Apple taught you, so if I went shopping, so I can't remember who said they went shopping, but if I went shopping and someone pounced on me as soon as I walked in the door, I'd go out, I'd leave. Okay, because I didn't want to be harassed. I wanted to have a browse first and then have a, maybe ask a question. But Apple, they taught you when someone comes into a shop and they come in to have a look, because it's a beautiful shop, that you just acknowledge them. You smile, you acknowledge them. You might have a little one-liner, how are you today? And then you let them browse. As long as you acknowledge people and smile, even in a queue, we had a very, very busy store in London, New Oxford Street, a very busy store. But even when we had queues, as long as you acknowledge the person who was fifth in the queue, say, yeah, I've seen you, I'll be with you as soon as I can. That's about looking after the person. And when people ask me for computers, I listen. So I talked about yesterday of having 2 of these and 1 of these. It's listening to what they want. Sometimes people want to talk and tell a story, and you can tease those story out by asking pertinent questions. They want to buy a computer, for example. Well, can I ask what you're using it for now? And what do you want to do with it in 9 months? And what would you like it to do in the future? Because I never bought bottom of the range. I always bought middle to top because it always lasted longer for the customer. I was never in it to sell something for the sake of selling something, as I would like to have been treated. So I then came down to London's 150 miles an hour. Okay. So when I was talking to customers, if I went to see someone and, so anyway, look, I'll tell a story. So it's different. It's 150 miles an hour in London. Came to Cornwall, completely different place. So I think you have to adapt your approach to the circumstances. Cornwall is a different place. So when I first moved to Cornwall, I moved down there because it's a slower pace of life. It's beaches, it's beautiful, it's stunning. But I didn't realise that the business is very similar. So I went to see someone, and within a day or two, I'd done the quote. And they looked at me and said, "Whoa, what's going on?" Because I know in London, if I'd gone to see someone and I hadn't done a quote within 3 days, someone else would have been there. Okay, or they would have got fed up and gone somewhere else or bought it online. In Cornwall, it's all about relationships. And they may buy in 3 days. It could be 3 weeks. It could be 3 years. But as long as you build that relationship, they want to keep it in Cornwall. Okay? Everyone wants to keep that pound in Cornwall if they can. So as long as you build that relationship, and it's not who you know, it's not the people that you talk to, it's who they know. So networking is all about, you never know who's going to come in the room. You just never know. So get your presentation correct, listen to what they're saying, and try and remember those things to bring it into the conversation. When you have a one-to-one, I always try and do a one-to-one to find out a little bit more about people. So I agree, Jasper, you came up with some brilliant points. And Paulo, it's all about, it's different for different circumstances. That's what I'm trying to say. And as long as you're, I'll just give you one more story and then I'll shut up. I worked in a hi-fi store when I came to Cornwall. It was a beautiful shop, Bang & Olufsen, home cinemas. Oh, it was stunning. I loved it. But I would never sell something for the sake of selling it. I would always give the customer an option like I did with the computers. I would say, well, this will do what you want it to do, but this will do a little bit more. And that's got everything, bells and whistles. But I would go the other way. So Bang & Olufsen's beautiful, sounds beautiful, but it's really expensive, okay? Well, okay, it's a lot of money. No, I wouldn't say expensive. It's a lot of money. So I would listen and say, look, you know, I saw a customer saying he was going to spend £25,000 on a set of speakers. And I said, look, that's fantastic, but do you mind if I show you something else? And just listen to this. And he went bananas because it was £5,000 and he bought it. And then about 2 months later, he bought another pair because they were so amazing. Because he listened to what? You're listening to their needs and you're fulfilling those needs. So whether that's a product, a service, or a contact, because networking is all about introducing other people and helping them. Some people go to networking not to buy or sell, but to help in their business, whether they want an accountant, they need a new accountant, or they want some advice on their business. It's adapting to everything, in my opinion. Sorry, went on a bit.
Not at all, Warren. Thanks for that. I think you raised some fantastic points there as well. So really great insights. So Steve, been absent and missing from action for a while. So let's put you on the spot as we head towards the bottom of the hour. Yeah.
Thanks, Ivan. Cool, guys. Fascinating conversation. Sort of elicits more questions in me than I think I've got answers to share. The one thought that I'm struck by, though, is I remember listening to a podcast, and I can't remember the name of the guest, and he was critiquing the idea of capitalism and that the only bottom line really is the profit motive. And so obviously that's pertinent to the idea of sales, etc. And I think the reason that there's dissonance between relationship and sales is that if you're looking at purely sales from a business perspective as the profit motive, then it's very much a one-way street. And that's why I think people feel manipulated when relationships are used, because there's a lack of integrity in that, and that's actually, I'm not trying to be your friend. I'm not trying to be your buddy. I don't actually care for your interests in the long term. All I'm really interested in is making the biggest sale possible, because we've got to get turnover going. And that's why I think I appreciate Warren's just comment that he made now in terms of really looking to investigate the needs of the person. So if you sacrifice a £25,000 sale for a £5,000 sale, it means that you've really paid attention to the needs of the customer. And I think there's a little bit more integrity in terms of that relational interaction. And so one of the ideas that this guy put forward in the podcast is that if you look at business with a triple bottom line rather than just the profit motive, you've got to look at something that's good for business, good for sales. Then you've got to look at something that's good for people, and you've got to look at something that's good for the environment. And that's a more holistic way of looking at business in the long term, because we can see the damage. I think I can definitely see it globally that's been done by just this profit motive driven way of doing business. And so when I think through relationships, if I think purely from sort of my area of expertise, relationship is about mutuality. It's not about one person getting more than the other person gets. And I think if you exploit relationships just for the sake of sales, for your own bottom line, then I think we see in the long run that people start to lose out. And I'm not just talking in terms of business. I think ethically, I think from humanity's perspective that we're seeing that. And I think you can see that most markedly in the new generation, in the way in which they want to do business. And there's very much that question about, are things good for the earth? Is it good for each other? Are you just trying to exploit me as some sort of corporation, etc.? And I think those messages are worth listening to. But yeah, this is a huge conversation, so that's maybe a little bit of a jumbled response, but some of my initial thoughts that come out as I listen to you guys. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Steve. Right, Stella, let's get across to you.
Morning, everyone. Yes, so I think for me, I'm learning a lot again today, because this networking thing and building relationships is quite new to me in my new business. But funny enough, yesterday, via a relationship that I've got already, I was able to tap into that. And that just confirmed to me again how important the relationship building part is. Because this person knows me, and I offered my service not just in a way to get business, but also to assist other people. Just quickly, background is with the church. So one of the ministers at the church that actually knows me sent a WhatsApp on our volunteer group at the church and said, listen, we're having a meeting on Wednesday, and our church is very big. We're talking about plus minus between 4,000 and 5,000 people. So it's a huge community. And I try to already get connected with the wellness center at the church, where there's 2 psychologists that I know that they're gonna see people that's in distress, maybe in their marriages, but I've had no luck there. I phoned, left messages, because they don't know me. They haven't got the relationship. And then I sent, so this minister sent a message on the WhatsApp group to say that they're having a meeting on Wednesday and to find out what all the volunteers, etc., is doing. So I just sent a voice note and I said, listen, do you remember me? And this is my business, but I would love to assist. Even I'm sure there's people that maybe cannot afford a mediation, but to assist in that way. And I think it is, so because she knew me, and I think because she responded immediately and said that she can hear my compassion and that I want to help the people. So yeah, I think it is very important to build that relationship first. But thanks again for all you guys, Trevor, Warren, everybody, for your input. I'm learning a lot today. And a special welcome to Master. I met him on Friday and I invited him. He's also got his own business, but he can tell you guys a bit more. So I hope you're enjoying it today, Master.
Great, thanks, Stella. Yeah, and Master, let's come across to you and hear your thoughts of your first interaction with Wisdom's Chats, and maybe you can tell us a little bit more about yourself as well.
Yeah, thanks. This is a product of relationships. I think, one of the bases of selling, or it's more about selling yourself and knowing yourself better. My instant interaction with Stella, we sort of like formed the relationship. We cannot define it, but we eventually or ultimately found that we are almost of the same background and have almost faced the same challenges and stuff like that. And the kind of business that she's getting into is something that of interest to me. Like somebody said initially, in the beginning, that if you cannot make a difference in the person that receives your selling or your sale, it is not as mutually beneficial to both of you. So, I was attracted to wisdoms. I like the word wisdom. I always read the book of Proverbs and trying to get more wiser and wiser. So at least now on this platform, I've got people who are alive, who are sharing the wisdom, so I can pick up on their wisdom.
Fantastic. Thanks, Master, and welcome again. So nice to have you on board. So Nozipa, let's get across to you. Nozipa, are you with us?
I am. I'd like to just listen.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, thanks, Nozipa. All right, Cecile. Cecile, are you there?
Yes. Today was also a listen day. I've got lots to say about selling, but today was just a listening day. And interesting, I also hate being pounced on in a shop. But if someone does a good selling job, because I like selling, and I think I'm a salesman, I actually allow myself to be sold too, if someone does a really good selling job. I do recognize the process, but I will still allow myself to be sold to. Just one thing that I don't like, and Trevor, I agree with you. To me, it's pretty false to be interested in people just so that you can try and build a type of relationship with them to sell them at the end. I'd also rather just come out straight off the bat and tell them. I was also in pharmaceutical sales, so I also learned to just go out there and sell what you have to sell. They don't always have to like you, but they can sell you. They buy what they need to buy. So yeah, so time is short, so we can talk about this again another day. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Cecilia. I think it is a topic that obviously has got more legs than perhaps we thought when we started it yesterday. So thanks to Mpolelo for push it on. I think there's been some great value coming out of today. So yeah, I think we'll probably wrap it up there for this morning. And Lee, over to you and see what's on the cards for tomorrow.
You know what? I don't have any clear thought about where we want to go, where I think we should go tomorrow. And we've done this before and just done like a open mic session where you bring your ideas. So if you want to continue this conversation, or if there's something else that you want to raise. So I am going to make it an open floor. You come with some idea, something that is stirring or mulling over in your mind, and just throw it out there, share your thoughts. We'd love to hear what's happening for you right now. So, and I think it's also in line, we've got our global summit on Friday, and we've already asked this question on Wisdom's Chat, you know, what's next for you? But just in line with that, what is your current thinking? Where are you? What's a question that you're thinking about at the moment? So would love to just hear your open mic. Yeah, share your ideas, thoughts. I'd love to hear from you tomorrow.
Great, thanks, Leah. Nazipa, I see you on mic there. Did you want to add a comment in there, or did you just not mute?
No, I forgot to mute.
No, not a problem at all. Right, fantastic, folks. I think Trevor popped all the details for the summit in the chat box. So we'd love to see you on Friday from 9 a.m. onwards. We're going to be online the whole day. We've got great international speakers from around the world, as you would have seen with the details that Trevor put there. I think it's going to be a fantastic day. Mpolelo is one of our top international speakers that's going to be on in the day. So looking forward to that. And yeah, so have a great day further, and we'll see you in the morning. Go well.